Hey everybody, welcome to today's live stream. Welcome to the Industry 4.0 weekly live Q&A. Good to see you guys here. Michael Dowdell, welcome from Quaretato. How do you say that? Alexander Bertho, welcome. You guys, we're live here every week at Tuesday noon Central Standard Time, answering your questions about Industry 4.0, IIoT, and digital transformation. So make sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell to get notified every time we go live and upload a new video. I'm here with Walker Reynolds. Welcome.
What up, yo?
Hey,
How's
Phil.
everybody
Hey,
doing?
Brendan.
I see Dan Ryken and Phil
And
Scruggs.
Vaughn
Cheryl
Turner.
Nice.
Welcome, Vaughn.
What up?
I see Raviel from One Way Automation. All right, awesome. So Zach and Vaughn, what's up, man? How you guys been?
Oh, just doing this, doing that, this and that.
Excellent.
I'm back in Salt Lake City.
I actually like that style. I see your vibe board back there. All right. So real quick, housekeeping. So we're gonna do the Q&A just a hair different this week. It'll be mostly the same, but I want to answer at least 2 or 3 questions from the chat.
Rick
today.
Bellata's questions.
Yeah, let's talk about Rick Bellata, right? So, where can I see whatever he wrote? I didn't see that. I know you told me, but I didn't see it. Where is it?
Oh, he shared it on LinkedIn. Does someone want to share the link to the?
So what I'd like
shared it on
is
LinkedIn and tagged me and you on it.
if anybody has any questions, please put them in the chat that you want me to answer. Like I saw Mark Rishi ask a bunch of really cool questions about NKTT and stuff in Discord. So just some housekeeping stuff. Like I've been super busy and dealing with some personal stuff going on at home and which is part of life and then some stuff going on in the office. I've been really, really busy. I'm like buried in projects and so I haven't actually had a chance to answer a lot of questions in Discord. I did answer a few of them, but I haven't had a chance to answer a lot of them. So what I'd like to do is if you guys have any questions that I haven't answered you want me to answer, just drop it in the chat. And then I'll pick 2 or 3 of them to answer here. I've got, I think I've got 4 that we're going to answer today, but I'm going to do some updates.
Here's what Rick said.
But let's start with Rick Bellata, who, by the way, I like Rick a lot.
For those of you guys that don't know, what did Rick do?
I don't know.
What's Rick famous for?
He is famous for something. What is it?
PTC? Co-founder of PTC?
Right. He's the former PTC guy, right? Yeah, and he was he was the guy who sold it. All right, so Rick says, go ahead and make that full screen, Way. So, yo, Walker Reynolds and Zach Scriven, what happened to your Industry 4.0 podcast? I wanted to come on and set you straight on MQTT and Sparkplug. There's some unfinished discussion to be had. Let's do this. And no, I'm definitely not an OPC UA fanboy. I'd love to do it, Rick. In fact, when the guys told me, they're like, hey, Rick wants to set us straight. The plan was to just bring you on the live Q&A this week and just say, hey, Rick, set us straight. That was actually the plan. But I think we asked him like with too short a notice. So Rick, to answer your question, if you do watch the live Q&A, yeah, let's do it. We can either do it as a podcast or we can just do it like in one of the live streams. I think podcast format's better, just because if we go long, if we can go as long as we want, and then we can have Zach chop it up if we want to, or we can post both the full thing or a piece that's. I think it's better to do it that way. Also, we get better video quality when we do it as a podcast as opposed to doing it through Restream.
Micro content.
You guys are keeping track of the questions, right, Vaughn, that are in the chat?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you guys don't follow Rick on LinkedIn, I recommend you do. Rick Bellata. He's a very, very opinionated guy, just like I am. He's also insanely rich, and so he has what we in the industry like to say is "fuck you money," and so he likes to say "fuck you" a lot. And there's nothing wrong with that. I do it all the time. So All right, real quick. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And
And he went to Cornell too. So
oh, did he really?
Yes.
Did you get a new?
Hey.
Why does your screen look? Why does your camera look so good, Walker?
Zach wants to take credit for this. So we'll give you guys. Actually, I want to do 2 quick updates. So I want to do a shout out to Cheryl McCrary real quick. So everybody who's in Mastermind,
she set us straight, basically.
yeah, everybody who's in Mastermind already knows this because I talked about it in the Mastermind session last Friday. But so Cheryl flew out here. She was out here in Dallas last week, right? Or it was last week.
Yeah.
Right. So Cheryl was out here in Dallas at the beginning of last week doing like a 2-day workshop with us, all centered around like messaging. And, she's like, hey, listen, your message has grown so big. You have lots of people hijacking. Basically at the end of the day, you have to have a strategy to continue to maintain the authority over what you're putting out into the community in a nutshell. And like there are definitely people. I mean, there's like an integrator. I don't know if they're in South America or if they're in, if they're somewhere else. But I mean, there's an integrator who literally took my words, like word for word, and put them on their website and like launched it, like end of last year. But they didn't credit anything I said, and which is kind of ridiculous. This is obviously stuff they got from our content, and they put it on their website and never referenced us. And part of what Cheryl is saying is that is if they got all the words right, if she said it, if they get all the words right, great, right? But they're going to take that and do something with it. There's going to be that's just a point in time there, and you don't have any authority over that. So you need to have a strategy for maintaining authority over your message. And so Cheryl came out here to work with our team on that type of message, right? How to do that. We had a chance for me to tell Cheryl, like, hey, this is what I actually believe. And I talked about in Mastermind about how, maybe Cheryl was shocked by this or not, because, there are a lot of business people out there who say they're not money motivated and that they really are mission driven. And then all of a sudden you find out they're money motivated. I think Cheryl went out for real that I'm not money motivated. Everything I talk about is mission based, and my 3 priorities when it comes to content. Let's build an audience that wants to hear what we have to say. Let's say something valuable, and number 3, let's maintain our authority. Like that's all the focus. It's not about money and all that stuff.
Yeah,
I pay other people to make sure that we don't go out of business. I'm not focused on any of that stuff. So I think Cheryl was maybe she was surprised, maybe she wasn't. But let me say this, I'm giving her effusive praise here, because if you guys have a business that's a growing business, 4.0 Solutions is only it's one of 5 companies in my automation group, and it's a young company. It started in January, and we got it. We started it 2 years ago, but we jumped in with both feet in January. We've grown super, 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 super fast, and with growth comes all sorts of problems. If you're in one of those scenarios, so like companies that I can think are going to be in those scenarios, like Ectobox is going to grow, at a rate. Kevin Jones is going to obviously have to deal with that with his company, and Mario Ishikawa is going to have to deal with that with Pack IoT, right? There's a lot of companies out there that, as they're growing, they're going to, especially if they're doing content, they're going to have trouble maintaining authority over their unique messages, the novel messages. Cheryl is your person. Like, you get on the phone with Cheryl, you either get her out in your office, you have a phone call with her, whatever it is. That interaction with her was invaluable for us over the course of the 2 days. And in what I found, out here, we kind of just go wherever we want to go with a conversation. We're very organic, and we derailed Cheryl all the time. I mean, every conversation was derailed. If you looked at her notes, she did a phenomenal job of accomplishing her goals in spite of the fact that we take the message everywhere. So cannot say enough about Cheryl's expertise and what she has done for us and ultimately for the community. So thank you to Cheryl for that. All right. Number 2, you guys may know that we launched another channel called Adversity and Success. It's meant for a much broader audience on YouTube. It's definitely different than the content we do here. It's non-technical. It's all centered around life lessons, business lessons, relationship lessons, that kind of stuff. Really the audience is sort of me talking to my grandchildren, kind of. That's sort of the way that the way that we're shooting the content. But it's all centered around like basically truisms in business, truisms at work, and truisms in relationships, and sort of connecting the dots in the way that I'm doing the same thing in that content that I'm doing with technical content, taking complex stuff and breaking it down to its simplest elements. And at various times in people's lives, I think the stuff that we're doing on Adversity and Success is going to be valuable to people. And so, check out the channel.
I dropped the link in the comments.
Yeah, if you think if there's someone who could benefit from it, please share it with them. We want to impact as many people as we possibly can. So, all right. Thank you for that. All right, let's go. One last thing you guys may know that we're doing. We want to give a big thank you to EasyVPN. One of the things that they're the sponsor for September, the channel sponsor for September. I got to tell you, man, the IO Hub is, I had expectations going in as to what I was going to see. And I sort of expected to see something in the vein of Litmus Automation or Sorba IoT. That's kind of what I was expecting, except it would be running on an industrial VPN. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, if you haven't heard about EasyVPN, I have their appliance back there. But the real nuts and bolts of it is IO Hub, which is a platform for deploying Docker containers for industrial use. Excuse me, hold on. And at the core of it is this Linux distribution for industry. Anyway, I've had a chance to play with the IO Hub. Zach's actually going to be doing a lot, some more work. We're going to be shooting some additional content on it. That should really hopefully show you guys what we're doing, or what the value of IO Hub is. But if you get a chance, please go to, is it easyvpn.io, Zach?
easyvpn.online.
.online. Yeah. Please check them out. I mean, they make all the content that we did this month possible. So, I mean, they picked up the bill for this community. So it would be great if you guys would go and click and check on their check their site out. It only takes you a second, and it tells other companies that we believe in, like companies like HiByte and all that kind of stuff. Hey, there's value in supporting the community. All right. Last thing, October 21st and 22nd. So what we decided to do was, because the Canary Labs event had to get canceled in Chicago because of COVID, we decided to take a piece of that and do a live virtual training for our mastermind group. Okay. But a lot of people asked us to extend that to people who are not in mastermind. So what we're going to be doing on October 21st and 22nd, it's a 2-day event, all day long, both days. Okay. We're going to be doing, for day one is going to be foundational stuff. And so Industry 4.0 training, as well as Factory Studio frameworks training in day one. Day two is going to be a full unified namespace build in the vein of the UNS build we did a year ago with Ignition. We're going to do it with frameworks. We'll be doing hands-on training. We're partnering with Opto22 as well. Vaughn, did we get that finalized? The Opto20? You're talking to Benson, right, and all that.
Yes, we have a meeting with him today, actually.
Okay, so we're gonna be partnering with Opto22 on this. As far as I know, Benson has said yes, but we haven't we haven't finalized.
And Canary, who's the sponsor of the entire month of October, right?
Right, and we'll be sponsoring, and we'll be working with Canary.
For those, the Canary got that built-in 500 tag license into every frameworks installation.
Correct. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be teaching Industry 4.0 principles by me, hands-on training exercises and foundational strategy. That'll be day one. We'll be doing architecting a UNS with frameworks by Tatsoft. That's day two. That also includes the 500 tag Canary license that'll be in there. We're going to be integrating with a Opto 22 Groove Epic or Rio, but we got to finalize that with Benson today. You'll learn the 4.0's R method for end-to-end enterprise integration, but we'll probably do it with, say, 50 tags, 25 to 50 tags, something like that. And it's really, the audience is really systems integrators or end users, right? So it's not really vendors or anything like that.
Quick note: if you're in our mastermind program, if you didn't catch that earlier,
I'm gonna take care of it. So this is really for the mastermind folks, but other people have asked to join it. So because mastermind is a paid program, we can't just let people join. So we just came up with a price off the top of our head, and you can participate virtually if you just a la carte, or if you do this virtual training and you decide you want to join the mastermind program, which is us teaching you how to lead and architect Industry 4.0 solutions, right? Digital transformation initiatives. Whatever you pay for this to attend will apply to the cost of mastermind. So we try to make it as easy as humanly possible. Anyway, early bird tickets are on sale through October 1st, right?
Yep.
Okay. Did I get everything? You happy with me?
Thank you, dude. Thank you.
Okay, you got me. All right, cool. Yeah, give me.
I wasn't sure if you were aware of that special bonus we were doing, but yeah, thanks.
All right, got it. All right, so we're up to over 12,500 subscribers.
It's insane.
Yep, Discord's been growing.
Almost 3,000, right?
Blowing up. Yeah, it's really, we're going to end up having to add someone to the team to take over responsibility of funneling the Discord messages to us that we absolutely have to answer. We're going to be putting together an FAQ on how to get the most out of Discord. So especially if you're a new user and you join the Discord, like, hey, how to get to the most important messages? How do you do a search? What channels should you read first? That kind of stuff. So we'll be putting together an FAQ for that, and we're actually going to shoot some content centered around that. Big thanks to EasyVPN for being the sponsor this month. Canary Labs is the community sponsor for next month. We're also working with maybe a half dozen other companies on potentially sponsoring the community. Actually, they're reaching out to us, so we suspect that it'll happen. All right, we'll get to the question. So Zach, did you guys add any questions in here that I need to answer, or do you want me to add them at the end?
Yeah, we'll add them at the end. I'm going through them again to make sure that we didn't miss any.
To answer MM's question, have we ever shot a video to show how to use DeviceWise with Ignition? We've never shot the video, but that's a great idea for a video for us to shoot. That's by the way, to integrate, you can integrate Ignition to DeviceWise in like 500 different ways. So what would be interesting about that video is what's the best way to connect Ignition to DeviceWise. All right, real quick. No solution for ARM yet. Blah blah blah. All right, I wanted to. So you guys may have known we published a video on 5G this past week. We just sort of shot it off the top of our head. I was part of an industry panel for Tech Data last week. I think it was me and 3 other people from Tech Data, and we were talking about 5G and IIoT, right? And I want to talk about 5G a little bit here in addition to that video. If you didn't get a chance, please check out that video. But I wanted to give a shout-out to Emil Akbar. Big thanks to him. He said, Emil, if you haven't, he's an online educator, a bunch of Udemy classes, he teaches industrial automation. So he said, he gave us a shout out, and I wanted to, pat ourselves on the back because it's hard work shooting this content. He said, I've read article after article on 5G. All of them have said that this would be the best thing since sliced bread, but none could properly articulate how in terms of the real world. Walker just did in 22 minutes what all of those articles could not. This blew my mind. Super practical. Thanks a million. I'm going to jump on Qualcomm's website. Thank you, Emil. Tip of the hat to you, sir. I want to clarify a couple things on the 5G thing. 5G really is a major game changer. The crux of the video that we shot on 5G and Industry 4.0 is this. 5G is not the equivalent of moving from 3G to 4G. Going from 4G to 5G, they're not the same equivalent, okay? When we moved from 3G cellular technology to 4G, we went from being able to send pictures and video in a completely unreasonable amount of time, right? Which made it not practical. 3G was just so slow that it wasn't worth it in most cases, okay, in terms of data-wise. Browsing the web was problematic, etc. When I moved to 4G, it made it practical, but it didn't make it useful. And what I mean here is that 4G LTE is effective in some use cases. But we all self-filter the things that we will do over cellular technology, and security isn't the reason we do it. I mean, everyone has tested the idea that I'm going to, use a hotspot for my internet, or I'm going to use a hotspot in my recreational vehicle, or I'm going to share my mobile connection from one device from my cell phone to other devices. And anyone who has done that has discovered that it's practical. That is, with one device, in practice, I can download a video at a high speed. I can transfer big files, but no one is transferring, a virtual machine over 4G LTE. I'm not uploading a 40 gig virtual machine to a cloud-based file share for me to share with another teammate. You don't do that, okay? Why? Because it isn't useful in that way, all right? Why is it not useful? Well, really, it's two reasons, okay? Number one, 4G LTE isn't stable enough for you to trust transmitting a 40 gig file, okay, across over cellular. And number two, the number of connections that is the number of devices that can connect to a cellular tower over 4G is too low. And so there's all sorts of throttling. There's all these artificial tools that the cell companies use to throttle your data to make sure that all the devices that need to connect can, okay, and those who are connected have the bandwidth they need to get a practical amount of bandwidth, but not a useful amount of bandwidth. 5G has a 500x impact on speed. 500. That is with latencies dropping down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 milliseconds from 25 to 250 milliseconds. Okay, that is the round trip it takes for communication, is dropping to like fiber speeds, okay, fiber latencies. And the number of the bandwidth goes from, say, 20 meg to 100, 200, all the way up to 20 gig a second at peak, right? That has a 500x impact on bandwidth, on speed over a 5G network from 4G, okay? But here's the kicker.
Stack?
Yeah, here's the kicker. Yeah, they stack. They have as latency goes down, latency is simply priority. Like I may be able to send the speed is basically how many cars come off the road in a given second, right? Latency is how fast I can send a car in that direction and then back to me, okay? Bandwidth is how wide the road is, okay? The speed at which I can send a car on the road and back has dropped from 25 to 250 milliseconds down to 1 to 5 milliseconds. And the number of cars I can put on the road has gone is 100 times as wide. So the impact is a 500x impact. But the real kicker is the number of devices. A regular cell tower can handle tens of thousands of connections. Okay, so That is the number of devices that can be connected to it. Okay. With 5G, you go to millions. And the reason you go to millions is because of, well, really two things. A, the you can connect more devices just functionally with 5G, but also you're using device to device and mesh for connecting other devices that may not be able to talk to the tower, right? And so what's the real impact of 5G? It's in our personal lives. We're not going to have internet service providers at home. I promise you, 10 years from today, everything's going to be over, with wide adoption of 5G.
Unified network?
Correct. Right now, we have two separate. We have mobile for certain use cases, right? Hey, I can live with being on LTE 4G.
That makes sense.
For these things, but I need to get home to do this, and this. No, that all gets merged together.
Albert says he wants to go test his latency just based on this knowledge.
Yeah. You're Albert, your buddy Albert.
Go to Ookla or go to Speed Test.
Yeah, go to Speed Test. That's the best place. That's the Ookla engine. And then the second impact is, in industry, the corporate networks are going to be on a 5G backbone. They're not going to be these local physical networks connected to a core that goes to an ISP. That's not the future. That isn't the future. In fact, we have a client who's on this call right now who I know is looking at, I think their whole campus is moving to, private 5G in their whole campus. All right, so that 5G video was controversial, by the way. I got a bunch of messages, and there's a lot of people who believe...
What was some of the negative feedback?
They don't believe that it's... they believe that cell companies are over-promising and they're going to under-deliver. And anybody who said that they simply don't understand the technology. And I touched on all the things that matter, right? I touched on all the pieces. I'm going to touch on a couple of more here in a second. All right, number 2, I want to answer Niles Kaiser's question. I'm researching the possibilities with a Siemens S7 1500 PLC. Siemens has a library that supports MQTT 311. Because the library is MQTT 311, does this mean it supports SparkPlug-B or not? If not, do I have to buy an edge of network device that is connected to the Siemens PLC, which is compatible with SparkPlug-B? And where can I find out if my edge of network device is compatible with SparkPlug-B? Great question. So let me answer them in order. Because the library is MQTT 311, does this mean it supports SparkPlug-B or not? The answer is no, it doesn't support SparkPlug-B. The specific library you're referring to, and I don't know all the backstory, I know most of it, but basically it was developed by some guy in Brazil. It wasn't developed by Siemens originally. So there's a function block that you can, using TIA Portal, you can add this function block that will go into like a 1200 or 1500 that'll allow you to, you can actually either publish or subscribe or publish single blocks or single registers or blocks of registers in a Siemens S7 1500 or 1200, but not over SparkPlug-B. So it's just going to be vanilla MQTT 311. So the next question is, and now Siemens manages that function block. It used to be just like this guy that you could download it from, and now it's
What do you think? Siemens. What do you think Rick's going to say about SparkPlug-B? Like, what is the common complaints of SparkPlug-B?
I think Rick is going to give me. I know what he's going to say. So Rick, if you're watching, I already know what you're going to say. Rick is going to give me an abstracted philosophical argument for how the gaps in MQTT and SparkPlug-B will not meet industry's needs. And he will do that, rightfully so, because he doesn't know all the other pieces we teach, right? So I think what he's going to do is come in and say, I think he's going to come in with the mindset, MQTT SparkPlug-B, since it can't solve every problem, then it can't solve the problems, right? That's what Rick's going to do. He's going to give me that abstracted philosophical argument.
We should do it like an actual debate, because that was one thing that people said that they were kind of anticipating with Rockwell, is having it more like an actual debate. You
need a moderator. You need a moderator, and you need a moderator who knows what they're doing in debates. That's the only reason we didn't do that. But that's what Rick will say. And I mean, and it's a fair argument, and what we'll do is close the gap. and I think we should do it Socratically. So I think he and I should agree to only ask questions, right? So we should challenge only through questions, as opposed to making declarative statements. All right, let me answer his question here. Yeah, so he says, if not, do I have to buy an edge of network device that's connected to the Siemens PLC, which is compatible with Spark-Plug? The answer is yes. There are many ways to do this. The most common implementation for us, so we have a very large enterprise. So one of our case studies is a company that basically does mobile municipal wastewater. It's like a new age thing where they basically have a water wastewater treatment facility on wheels, and they have hundreds and hundreds of them all over the
like wastewater 4.0.
Yeah, and it's wastewater 4.0, and they have two Siemens PLCs on their rigs, and the way that we integrated, we use Advantech Unos. So Advantech Unos running ignition edge, actually full-blown ignition, running a full-blown ignition using the Siemens driver. I think it was like $250 a piece, but you'll notice inductive automation changed the pricing of that driver, and there's no question that it was our project was part of that.
Could you do that project today with the IO Hub?
You could do it with IO Hub. You could do it with Litmus Automation. You could do it with Factory Studio. You could do it with
any IoT platform.
Well, it doesn't even have to be a platform. There are some tools, like you could use the CMT SVR from Maple Systems, because that has a Siemens driver on it. You could use a Easy Rack PLC, because it can talk to the Siemens PLC and just pull those tags. Yeah, agree with Cheryl. Walker and Rick will create plenty of controversy on their own. No debate format needed. Actually, I think it'll be very entertaining for people, because Rick and I have very similar personalities. There are many different ways to do it. The way that we did it in that big implementation was we used Ignition on the edge. We wrote our own MQTT transmitter. Now, we did not use Cirrus Link's MQTT transmitter. So we took basically the namespace from the Siemens PLC. We wrote our own MQTT transmitter in Python that we called. We actually manage that using Docker is the way that we're actually managing it. And then we transmit to an MQTT broker in the cloud, where we have an IoT platform that basically takes all those tags, and it goes to the enterprise SCADA system that monitors all the rigs. Okay. Just be careful with CPU architecture and OS. We are finding some glaring fails. Correct. That's why we switched to Linux on the edge, Michael Dowdell. We switched to Linux. We were originally running Windows on the edge, and we switched to Linux for it. All right, and then his last question is, where can I find out if my edge of network device is compatible with Spark-Plug-B? A couple things. You're always going to see the Spark-Plug logo. If they're a member, so most vendors who have added Spark-Plug support have joined the Spark-Plug working group. If they join the Spark-Plug working group, they get a little Spark-Plug logo, and they actually put it on their device. But there are many vendors out there who have added Spark-Plug support, and they haven't joined the working group, because it is very easy to add Spark-Plug support. You can basically do, like Easy Automation, who makes the Easy Rack PLCs, they did it in a day. Okay, they had the beta done in 48 hours. So this is one of our big arguments on OPC UA, is you have to spend a lot of money to add for every capability you want to add. It costs a lot of money in development. It's not cheap. A lot of time. It's just labor. So you can go to the Eclipse Foundation's website and look at the members. You can also go to Cirrus Link's website, and they actually have a list of all the vendors who make, so like Hilscher, and there's hundreds of them. So, there's no way for us to list them all to you. All right. Let's go to Sweeper 240's question on 5G. Hopefully I answer that. What about the inherent advantages and disadvantages of beamforming and massive MIMO, which are required for 5G and give it the ability for devices to be geolocated within an inch? Suddenly, manufacturing assets could be precisely known geospatially as would a personal phone. Okay, So I'm not going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages beamforming and MIMO. The main disadvantage is going to be there might be privacy related issues. Okay, that's the primary disadvantage. But what I want to do is I'm going to give you guys a couple of links instead of me explaining MIMO. Okay. And beamforming. I prefer Metaswitch's definition beamforming, but go ahead and read those, gang, at some point. What you need to understand is that beamforming is the application of multiple radiating elements transmitting the same signal at an identical wavelength and phase, which combined to create a single antenna with a longer, more targeted stream, which is formed by reinforcing the waves in a specific direction. Okay. So what it really means is that you have multiple devices at origin instead of one device at origin to create your signal. Okay. And then MIMO systems require a combination of antenna expansion and complex algorithms. MIMO is multifaceted, but it's been used in wireless communications for a long time. It's common for both mobile devices and networks to have multiple antennas to enhance connectivity and offer better speeds and user experiences. The real thing with MIMO is the algorithms used that control how data maps into antennas and where to focus energy in space. Okay? Both network and mobile devices need to have a tight coordination among each other to make MIMO work. The consequences of both, okay?
Ubiquiti had MIMO.
Right. The consequences of both are of having both MIMO and beamforming in 5G is that in order for those algorithms to be able to optimize the antennas and to be able to decide which device to use that creates the beam,
Right.
you have to know the location of the device. Okay, and so they use a lot of technology, software technology primarily, in conjunction with triangulation to do a much better job of figuring out where a device is in space within the radio waves, okay, within the beam, okay. There's no disadvantage to that, okay. The only outside of privacy. I mean, here's a really common use case that we get all the time. A project that we did, I'm gonna say it was 5 years ago now, 6 years ago, okay, was in South Texas, in Tilden, Texas, actually. There was an oil and gas customer who had a process that was a subset of a refinery, and it was outdoors. And those of you who haven't spent any time in South Texas, a lot of those facilities they're not in buildings, okay? So they're built out of doors. So like what you would imagine to see in a plant is just there's no building around it, okay? Now, there's a whole sorts of issues with that, like mainly that you got to put conduit in the dirt, in the ground, to run wires from, say, your control room or whatever out to all your devices. There's no ceiling. There's no structure for you to run conduit on, that kind of stuff. So expansion becomes sort of problematic, and it adds cost, right? Oh, I'm going to have to run a bunch of conduit, blah, 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 blah. I don't have just J boxes in the ceiling to drop wires from. So one of the things that they had was in their control room, their operators every hour were supposed to go out into this sub-process of this refinery. And they were supposed to walk up to temperature gauges and pressure gauges and stuff and take readings. And they were supposed to just put them on a piece of paper, right? So they were using a Delta V system to collect the data. Now, they were collecting the data via SCADA, but there were some instruments that weren't connected because they weren't smart. Okay, so there was they didn't have 4 to 20, 0 to 10 or anything. But they had some safety incidents in the past where they wrote a policy requiring that the operator needed to see with their own eyes what the measurement on the gauge was. They had both a smart sensor, a field sensor that was collecting the data, but then they also had just a analog sensor out there that you could see with your eyes. They were using redundant sensors. And so they wanted the operators to go out and confirm that that value was correct. Okay. For two reasons. They wanted to know when sensors were going bad, but also for safety reasons. What was the obvious consequence of that? Operators started every hour. Yes, Cheryl. The obvious consequence was operators started pencil whipping. Okay, so they would just, middle of the night, the operator doesn't want to walk around there. So, met Kendall. So the operator stayed awake. So they just started pencil whipping on the clipboard, right? So then what they started doing was they put cameras, out there. Well, their union or whatever flipped out, and so they got rid of the cameras. So they hired us. What they said they wanted to do was they wanted to make sure they wanted to have the operators no longer collect that on a piece of paper. They wanted the operator to collect it digitally so that you could combine the value that was in Delta V with the value that the operator collected, and we could store that in a database. So they originally hired, and they hired us to basically digitally transform that piece. But the big thing was they wanted to make sure the operator was standing in front of the sensor. And the reason they hired us specifically, because lots of people could digitize it, was that we had the ability to capture the GPS coordinates in their smart device and geofence the data collection. So basically, tablet in hand, walk up to sensor, I'm within the geofence. Now the field on the mobile device is enabled. Walk outside of the geofence, the field that they're supposed to enter the measurement into is no longer enabled, right? That project was pretty expensive. I mean, for a sheet that only had like 18 rows on it that they were going to do once per hour, I mean, they spent like $250,000 for us to do that. That's pretty expensive. But it would have been a lot easier had the 5G, so had the network been 5G and we could just we could create the geofence using 5G, or using the coordinates from the 5G backbone. It would have been a lot easier and wouldn't have cost nearly as much money than what we had basically had to write an iOS application that would extract the location, and then we had to convert that. It's expensive. That'll be far easier with a 5G infrastructure, and there are lots and lots and lots and lots of people out there who have this kind of use case that they want to solve. So, all right, any questions? Hey, folks, Zach, what question do you guys want me to answer from the chat? Zach, did you already pick one? Vaughn, whoever.
Desai asked, "How is Elastic Stack usage for predictive maintenance?"
That we need a video there. I can't do that in 15 minutes. Scroll up and look at the other. Let me look up here. Did you guys pick them or?
Yeah, there was one more.
Yeah, we did have one from John McKeon. He said he had his need for an edge gateway with up to 10 IOs with export to broker via MQTT over LTE. This gateway needs to be sub $100. Any pointers?
What IO does he need? Do you say? Did he say what form?
No, just with export to broker via MQTT.
All right, here we go. Answer how big multinational companies have great talents and great resources and still struggling to implement digital transformation. This is actually a great question. Zach, when is that masterclass? This is already available in the masterclass. All right, so I'll go ahead and answer this question for you. In fact,
I'll drop the link to the masterclass.
Zach, go ahead and hide my screen while I go find a slide that I want to show.
All right, your screen is hidden.
Okay, cool. I'll actually show you guys this. I'll answer that question. So the question is this: why is it that large multinational companies have awesome resources, they got amazing people, yet they're struggling to digitally transform? Okay. Now it's a complicated answer.
Should I put your screen back now?
No, not yet. Let me. It is, which one was it? Why so hard, right? So you guys, if you guys take the master class, okay. Go ahead, Zach. Go ahead and show my screen. So if you take the master class, which is It's on IIoT.university. I basically shot like this 90-minute class where it's literally it's why is Industry 4.0 so hard? Zach, will you put the link of that in there, please?
Yep, dropped it in there.
Okay. So what the answer is, why are Industry 4.0 so hard? And I literally shot this 90-minute video explaining it soup to nuts. Okay. So from start to finish, I literally got up on the Vibe board and I said, why is it so hard? It's because in order for you to be successful, there are 3 things you have to do. Okay, they're not optional. That you have to do them. If you fail in Industry 4.0 or in digital transformation, you only failed for one of 3 reasons. If you want to know like the value that we provide our customers, it's that. You have to have the right technology, you have to have the right strategy, and you got to use the right partners. Now, we may not be the right partner in some case. I mean, we're not right for every customer. If you're stupid, I'm going to tell you you're stupid. My team is going to tell you you're stupid. If you've got some person you need to fire, we're going to tell you got to fire that person. If you put the wrong person as your chief technical officer, we're going to say that person can't be your chief technical officer. If you've got a director who cares more about their career than the success of the company, we're going to tell you that director cares about themselves and doesn't give a shit whether or not you digitally transform. What they care about what happens over the next 6 months so they can get promoted to VP. That's it. Our job is to, if customers don't want to hear that kind of stuff, don't hire us. Do not hire us. If you say something you can't support in a meeting with me, I'm going to make you look like a fucking idiot. I'll tell you that right now. And it doesn't matter what your title is. I don't care what your title is. I don't give a shit who you are, where you went to school, what frat you were in. I will make you look dumb. That's who we are, right? Right partners means you make sure you pick the people who know how to tell you which tech to use, help you formulate your strategy, and we'll tell you the fucking truth. Okay? If you don't want to hear the truth, don't hire us. Okay? I'm not the person to be in your meetings. Or my team. Anybody on my team are not the people to be in your meetings. Because, if you put an idiot in there with us, we're going to tell you they're an idiot. That's one reason that organizations fail when it comes to Industry 4.0. Why? Because they're run by accountants and HR people. Okay? So most manufacturers, most end users are run by accountants and human resources. Okay? The people, the right partners you need, the resources that you need to be successful are in the top 30% of employees. So every manufacturer, I'm not telling you guys you've never heard before. If you work for a manufacturer, okay, doesn't matter, and Tesla doesn't count here. GE doesn't count either. There are a couple of manufacturers that don't count because they have a different mindset about the way they manage their organizations. Or Tesla is the best example, honestly. Here's what happens in a manufacturer, okay? The top 30% in your organization after 5 years leave. Okay, they either go start their own company, they move to a better company, but they don't deal with the bullshit at a manufacturer, which is there's a lot of things that happen at manufacturers that make no sense. Everyone in the organization knows it makes no sense, and no one does anything about it. You want to know why? Purnell's iron law of bureaucracy. That's why, okay? So the top 30% leave. People like me don't put up with that bullshit. People with, like, Setu Trivedi on here, he doesn't put up with that bullshit. There's lots of people who are in the top 30%. And when I say top 30%, it's highest performers. When you take how much they make relative to how much they generate, the delta, the profitability of that person is highest. They're in that top 30%. They leave. You fire the bottom 30%, and you're left in the middle 40. That is the people who stay over time. 99% of them are in that middle 40 group. Okay. Now, those middle 40 group are very important. That doesn't mean that there's no manufacturer out there right now that doesn't have anyone in the top 30% or top 5% of, technical minds in the industry. They do. My point is over a 5-year period, they don't stay. Okay. The change agents come in, they get frustrated, they leave. You need the people in that top 30% to digitally transform. Because digital transformation is not continuous improvement. It is innovation. And innovators don't think the same way as people who go along to get along. Okay? Why is it that manufacturers have those types of people? It's because they are run by accountants and human resources. Okay? Here's another issue that you have with manufacturers. Okay? The general manager at your average manufacturing facility is going to make, $100,000 to $120,000 a year, and then they're going to have, a bonus program that changes over and over and over again. I mean, the GMs don't really make that much money. I mean, they make good money, but they don't make life-changing money. All right, an elite level engineer. That is if you look at the people here who work in our company, right? A good systems integrator, engineer is going to generate $500,000 to $600,000 worth of revenue each year, and they're going to cost $150,000 to $185,000. An average systems integrator engineer is going to generate somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000 a year in annual revenue. Okay, your elite engineers are going to do in the millions. Okay, think about this. A guy like me, I generate $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $5 million in direct revenue off of me, just Walker Reynolds, not any other engineer, every year. So that means I'm going to demand a salary that's in the $600,000, $800,000, $1 million a year range. Think about that. My last year as a systems integrator, I made $660,000. There are lots of systems integrators on here who it blows their mind. They're like, wait, what? I know of 200,000. I know of 225,000. I know of 250,000. I know lots of guys who make 250,000 in systems integration. But I've never heard anyone making 600,000. That is as an engineer or manager. I was a common engineer and a manager of operations. I made $660,000 that last year. You can't hire that fucking guy. There's no general manager who's going to tolerate, paying, that guy's making 6 times what I'm making. Okay? So they can't afford the resources. I mean, by the way, the A players, the people in the top 30%, they figure out how much money they can make real fast. Okay? And then they go to their employer and they say, I'm underpaid. And they say, I don't know what to tell you. And they give all the normal bullshit, and that person leaves. You cannot digitally transform an organization with there's 2 personalities that really help this happen. You got type A's and type B's, okay? The type A are going to drive the bus. They're the people who are leading the initiative, okay? Those type A's impose their will. They're the ones who take the risk. They're the ones who are not afraid to get yelled at. They're not afraid to risk their career on something they're not sure is going to work, which is what you got to do with digital transformation. Okay, and the type B's follow the type A's. The 2 people you have to avoid are the type A who don't give a shit about the mission. So the type A who's thinking about themselves only, prioritizing themselves over the mission. You got to avoid them. Okay, and the type B who wants 8 hours in a shower. You want to avoid those 2 people, okay? The problem is that the type A's that stay at manufacturers are the ones who are only looking at themselves, okay? And the type B's that stay at manufacturers who are not in that top 30%, they're the 8 hours in a shower guy. They make the decision that I'm going to stay at the manufacturer because I want the security. I want the security of staying at the manufacturer, okay? All right, there's a second issue. Why digital transformation is so hard, okay? And it's on this slide right here. I strongly encourage you to watch this masterclass that Zach linked in here, okay? And that is this. The system is rigged against you. It's rigged, okay? And in the masterclass, I go over why it's rigged. What's the reason it's rigged, okay? So manufacturers, because they're accountant and HR driven, can't hire the resources they need to digitally transform. Doesn't matter how gifted their people are. They're still missing the pieces. They're missing the pieces. They may have super gifted people, but they're missing the pieces. When we go in and we engage with a client, one of the big things that we do is we're identifying the internal resources that they need to put on their digital transformation team. By the way, there are guys on this call, just on this call. I know there are people. There are people on this call right now. I used to make a joke. I've made more VPs in my career than I can count, and we're talking hundreds of people who went from engineering level to VP level. There are many people on this call that just in the last 9 months they work at clients of ours who have moved up 3 or 4 rungs on the organizational ladder through us identifying that they are the person or they're a person or persons who should be on those teams. I mean, one guy was a product engineer. He was hired as a product engineer. He was an engineer, 3 rungs down after the DTMA. That he's literally signing, $600 PO or $600,000 POs and $1 million POs, like literally those types of things. Why? Because part of our job in a DTMA is to go in and identify who those resources are. You need that person on your team. You need that person on your team. We're always trying to identify who the smartest person in the room is, that everyone knows is the smartest person in the room, but no one listens to, okay, because they're frustrated, right? And then you've got, and then we're also identifying who shouldn't be on your team, right? But why is it that it's so hard? It's because these manufacturers are run by accountants and HR, so they can't hire the resources they need, okay? Because they can't hire the resources they need, they got to outsource. They'll, instead of spending, $500,000 on an elite engineer per year, what they'll say is, I'll spend $1.2 million on a project that employs that $500,000 engineer for another company, okay? For another company for 12 months. And then I don't have to pay their salary and benefits after that. That creates a market for exploitation. And that market exists today. You all know it, okay? Why does Rockwell Automation operate the way they do? Because of the way manufacturers operate. Manufacturers created the environment that allows Rockwell to thrive the way they thrive and Schneider to thrive the way they thrive, okay? So you've got the vendors are the OEMs, machine builders, and distributors. The OEMs are all vertically integrated. What is that? Rockwell has products at every layer in the stack they want to sell. So what do? They go to machine builders and they give them a financial incentive to use their products with a caveat. You're going to lead with our products and you're not allowed to advertise other products. It doesn't matter that our products fucking suck. It doesn't matter that Rockwell makes terrible fucking software and everyone knows it. Rockwell makes bullshit software. Bullshit software. The only Rockwell piece of software I have ever been impressed with was Asset Center. That's it. Every other piece of software they've ever made is shit. Is shit. The reason that they spent $1 billion on the PTC partnership is because for a fucking decade they couldn't build anything that worked. $1 billion.
That's like the Rockwell playbook, right? Leverage the fact that I sell products at one layer in the stack to get you to buy products at other layers in the stack, even though they are not best in class.
So why it's so hard is the machine builders. That's a point. Very good point, Zach. So machine builders, they partner with the distributors and the OEMs, and they focus just on FAT, but they're stuck using the things the OEMs want the distributors to sell. It doesn't matter how good those things are. It only matters that I want you to sell it. Okay? The distributors partner with the OEM and the machine builders, and if you look at the way in the masterclass I explain, and by the way, Rockwell's not the only company that does this. Let me qualify that. It's all the big players in automation, okay? All the big players do the exact same thing. Why? Because of the way manufacturers build their businesses. They created the market for them to exploit. The problem is that worked fairly well in Industry 3.0 when it didn't matter which fucking PLC you bought. Here's a newsflash, guys. Here's a newsflash. If I'm doing automation, I could basically do automation with the exact same PLC. I can use whatever PLC I want. Doesn't matter. They all do the same fucking thing. Where you get into trouble is super high speed processes and motion control. That's where you might want to steer, Mitsubishi makes the best motion control PLCs in the world. Most people don't know that, right? Omron makes the second best motion control PLCs in the world. Most people don't know that either, right? But you might want to, you want to focus on Omron and Mitsu for motion control. For super high speed stuff, you want to go to like the big, L8s and, L9s, that kind of stuff, right? So let me finish my point here. So because of the way manufacturers operate, because they lose the talent that they need, because their payment, the way they pay people is out of whack with the market value of the people they need to help with digital transformation, they are forced to outsource. And who do they go to? They go to integrators and consultants. And what do integrators and consultants do? They partner with OEMs, machine builders, and distributors. They're part of the corruption. Okay, so what's the call to action, right? So I said, I said what needs to happen, right? So I strongly encourage you. I strongly encourage you to watch the masterclass. But this is what I say: manufacturers need to reorg. Okay, they need to put tech people in charge. Okay, I never want to throw up my mouth more than when I walk into a meeting with the leadership group of some manufacturer and I find out everybody in charge is a fucking idiot. An idiot. If you met some of the leaders that I've met in some of these manufacturers, you would be stunned. Okay? Now, they may be an amazing accountant, and they may have been an amazing controller at one point, but accountants and controllers don't understand context. They understand binary. Okay? So number one, manufacturers need to reorg. They got to put tech people in charge. Look at all the best companies in the world. Look at all of the Industry 4.0 manufacturers. Guess who's in charge? Engineers, developers. Okay? Number two, vendors need to focus on solving problems with common technology, not solving problems so that you can sell the next product that you have to sell to them. And number three, most importantly, integrators and consultants need to be agnostic. We are not an inductive automation premier integrator. If you run into a premier integrator from inductive automation, I'll pick on an IA because I talk so amazing about them all the time, but I talk about this. Fucking run! Run! Why would you work with a premier integrator at inductive automation? Why would you do that? They're literally telling you that what you need to do is not allow the premier integrator to help you decide to use Ignition. What you do is decide to use Ignition and then use that premier integrator in small chunks to solve your Ignition problems and only your Ignition problems. Because they have a financial interest in selling Ignition. The first question you need to ask your integrators and consultants is, do you sign partnership agreements with vendors? Do you have a financial interest in selling me the product you're recommending? Ask that question. So why is it, and newsflash, we don't sign those agreements, okay? We don't, because we want to solve the fucking problem. And I can't solve the problem if I've got a partner who's sending me an email and going, hey, Walker, you didn't hit your sales goal. Hey, we met at the beginning of the quarter. You said you were going to sell 1.1 million in licenses for us. It doesn't matter what the opportunities were. We just said this arbitrary number of 1.1 million. You want to know why people are buying modules and products and why they have licenses for shit they don't need? It's because of those relationships. But so few people know how the business actually works. So few people. So you want to fix people failing with Industry 4.0? Fix the fucking industry first. Manufacturers need to put tech people in charge. Vendors need to focus on solving problems. And integrators and consultants must be agnostic. That's the problem. Chris Gilles, that's the one reason I left a premier IA integrator. I'm telling you. And listen, man, there's nothing I'm saying here that is not true. People may not like to hear it, but it's the truth. Okay? Any other questions that you guys want me to answer?
One more. Mark Ritchie asked about the Compact Logics. Does it meet minimum tech requirements?
It does not. Does the Compact Logics PLC family meet the minimum technical requirements? If not, what would be needed to get it to meet? So there's two ways we do it. By the way, I love Compact Logics. In that video, I talk about this. I love the Control Logics platform. I love Compact Logics platform, but that's all holdover from Allen Bradley. That's not Rockwell. Okay, so I'm a huge fan of Compact Logics. I am. It's real hard to make the argument outside of, hey, we're a Rockwell house, to use Compact Logics when you got the Groove Epic or the PLC Next specifically, because you're getting so much more for so much less. And it meets the minimum technical requirements right out of the box, right? Mm-hmm. But the way that we do this integration, Mark, is we do it two ways, okay? The first way is every IoT platform out there. So if you look at WinCCOA, you look at frameworks, or Factory Studio frameworks, they want me to use the frameworks term instead of Factory Studio, and then or Induct or Ignition, or whether you any of the other tools, they all will talk to a Compact Logics directly. So what we will do is we'll do the data transformation, okay, into the MQTT namespace through the IoT platform. That's the most common way we do it. We do it all the time, right? We'll talk the native protocol directly to the Compact Logics and do the conversion in the IoT platform, all right? There are a couple other ways to do it. You can put an edge device out there that'll also, so like the CMT SVR by Maple Systems is a great way to do it. I always mention that because, for $300, I'm getting 300 drivers and I'm getting native mobile HMI out on the edge. But that's another good way to do it. So no, Compact Logics doesn't meet the minimum technical requirements, but for just a couple $100 more, you can do the transformation from the Compact Logics into the ecosystem. And we do it all the time. It's probably the most common integration. I'm obviously not suggesting people rip out all their Rockwell PLCs and stuff. That's absurd, right? But yeah. All right. Any other questions that you wanted me to answer? Michael Dowdell, I'm still waiting on my refund of $22,000. Amen. Rockwell software is garbage. We're all beta testers. Yes, Matt Kendall. Matt Kendall, actually, that is Rockwell's philosophy. There's another company that I'm not going to mention that's literally their philosophy. They're a company that makes MES modules, and they didn't do QA testing before they released their modules. That's why they were so buggy. But their attitude was a customer will beta test.
Any more to the questions?
All right. I got a little fired up there. Sorry.
All right, guys.
Like a little mini rant. It was cool.
I did go on a mini rant there, didn't I?
We'll see you guys next week. Remember, early bird sale on Friday for frameworks.
Yes. Appreciate everyone. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you.
Peace.